guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast, episode 128. And of course, with the semi-finals coming up, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to be taking a look at some trade news, of course, every single rumour seems to be coming out. Any player could be going at this point. Going to be taking a look at some pretty big storylines that came out over last week. Of course, the preview to the new round and the flog of the week is still going for the finals. So let's roll the intro and get straight into the new episode.
Welcome to the Boundary Riders podcast, your one-stop shop for all your AFL content needs.
He looks at his options and Jack Ginnivan says, "Boys, you brought me to the club to do justice!"
But this guy has Flog written all over him.
From attack down, Reed sprints away from Petrarca, leaves him in his wake, takes a second bounce, takes a third. The sheer arrogance of Harley Reid. Finish the job, young man!
So let's get into the footy news from the week that was.
So guys, my brother is here with me. Sorry we did miss the episode yesterday, so he's coming out one day late, but you got called into work, so we couldn't do it yesterday. I'm putting all the blame on you.
Yeah, well, I think you have to, don't you?
Yeah, well, overall, we had a couple of extra trade rumours pop through. We'll get to them a little bit later, but I think that's what we'll do in the podcast for the next couple of weeks anyway. Might as well cover them as they're coming out. Get some extra views.
Yeah.
Fucking, you see how the trade videos are going on the channel? Bonkers. Everyone's loving it.
Well,
this room is wrong.
There's one like every bloody hour at this stage.
Oh, well, of course they're not all fucking true. And I say that every time in the video, and you still get, "Oh, that's not fucking true."
It should be
How you go fucking message Tom Morris about it, alright? Don't message anyone.
you should just, like at the start of the video, just have a blank screen saying, "Not all true."
I've actually thought, you see like in documentaries or something, like when they have like a disclaimer at the front of the video.
Viewers discretion is
A
advised.
super serious disclaimer at the start of the video saying, for any people who may have troubling thoughts about certain sensitive subjects, and then just put down the bottom, these are trade rumours, they're not all true. I don't think it's going to matter anyway. But anyway, before we get into a couple of trade rumours and stuff, I wanted to talk about last week's games because I think every single final that came out last week had like some sort of story to come out of it. So first of all, we'll start with the game right back Thursday night, Crows v Collingwood. Now, of course, the big talking point out of that game was Isaac Quaynor's fragrance, what he wore that day. I thought it was a pretty nice fragrance that he chose. Unfortunately, the Crows fans weren't to impress.
No,
that's definitely what they were pulling out, I was thinking.
Yeah.
So obviously, that came out of the game. Crows lost. It's all losers. Yeah, they're coming out and saying they're sick. All right, bro.
Yeah, it seemed like
Alright,
that's
bro.
a bit of an excuse.
Oh, I think all 7 of the 28 to the squad, and shut up, bro. You lost the game. You played like shit. Deal with it. Come out next week and win. I'm going to be honest with you. If the Crows come out and go out in straight sets, it's a failure of a year.
Some people, it came out today on I think some radio show, and they're like, "Is it a success if they go out in straight sets?" It's like, no.
I get the point of like some people saying they finished 15th last year, so to make finals is, but the fact that they finished top of the ladder,
Two
two
finals
at
at home.
finals, a place where they barely lose.
Yeah.
They go out straight sets. That's a failure.
Yeah, it is.
You can't finish top of the ladder and go out in straight sets. I don't even know when the last time that's ever happened.
No,
I'm sure
I
it
don't.
has, but it's just that'd be crazy. And on Collingwood's point of view, everything over the last 8 weeks of the season's just been completely rubbed out. No one gives a shit anymore.
They're the second favourites.
They're back to favourites. Collingwood are going to win the flag. It's all over. 17 heaven, or whatever they like to say. And fuck off, it's 17. You won what, 4? You won 4. Okay, you can't claim 17. If they claim 17, Port Adelaide can claim 28 or 58 or whatever the fuck they've won. I know people will come at me for that. But the Sandful was, wasn't exactly the worst thing in the fucking world. It wasn't like the VFL was just so far above it. Anyway. I'll just go on a tangent. Then on Friday night, of course, the big talking point of that game was Cam Rayner taking a dive. I don't know if it's a dive. I think he definitely milked it. But the problem is it shouldn't have been paid.
No, but what has came out is that he went up to the umpires before a couple minutes before, 5 minutes. I don't know how long it was, but he goes up to him, like pretty much saying, "I'm getting hassled here. Take notice of it." And he goes down because the way he went down, it's like you're bigger than O'Connor anyway. Hold yourself up a bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will bring up the point as well, is like he was getting hassled all game by Mark O'Connor, and that's the only thing that people are seeing. But how many times a game does that happen? Like, players get hassled all the time. It doesn't all of a sudden just make it okay that Cameron has thrown himself on the ground.
Yeah.
And got 2 goals out of it. Now, the umpire should be better as well. I hate when people are like, oh, we shouldn't blame the umpire. It's like, bro, that's his job. If anything, now look, obviously it would have been bad as well if he called a umpire dissent call. I don't want that either. But surely you can hold yourself up and say, okay, I can see that it's 100 metres off the ball.
It was as Stingel was taking the shot at 50.
Yeah. Like, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking shit.
And I thought it was. I don't know the rules as intently as like. Maybe as educated as the umpires are, but why was it that it wasn't just a reversal? Why was it taken all the way to the square at the other end?
Well, I mean, it's down the field.
Yes, but come on, you got to think like in that moment. You got to reverse the decision and go all the way to the square.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the thing is, every Brisbane fan, every one-eyed Brisbane fan, like, it's the letter of the law. You can't touch someone behind the ball. You can't hit someone. You can't push someone like that. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, if that was the other way around, people would be saying, "Oh, Geelong are getting favoured all over again." So let's just put the fucking jumper away for a moment and just have a real look at it and say, that shouldn't have been a free kick. That shouldn't have been a free kick. And then the double free kick, the AFL, like, that's fair enough. Bullshit. That was crap. There shouldn't have been a double.
I agree the second one was, because they've paid it all. They've paid it for a long time. I believe that second one was, but the first one doesn't happen if the second one doesn't happen if the first one isn't stupidly paid. But I thought what the hilarious thing out of the whole thing is that the umpire, someone came out and said that was the wrong decision, and yet they don't fine Rayner for staging, yet they love fining players these days.
Yeah, and I think it was Justin Longmuir who came out post-game of the Freo game when he was asking about staging and that players should be fined $10,000 straight off the bat. And I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, staging it's starting to get into the game a lot more too.
And yet,
players starting to stage, starting to play for free kicks, starting to, I mean, obviously ducking and, lifting your arm and stuff for high free kicks has been prevalent for a very long time. But it's something that needs to be stamped out of the game, because we don't want to see literal finals getting decided by these sort of decisions.
Like at the time of the game, they were down by 30 points, and it was a swing of 2 goals, and they had all the momentum. The Lions.
Yeah, well, luckily the Cats. I mean, look, not that I want to be sitting here barracking for the Cats by any means. But luckily they turned it around and got the win. The Brisbane Lions weren't playing well, and they didn't really deserve to be back in the game either.
Well, it's funny, like. The 2 most hated teams in the AFL, both of them in the qualifying finals, it was like both of those teams were the most loved teams for a bit. The Geelong and Collingwood were now like, well, things that happened. We want Collingwood and Geelong to actually win now.
I mean, that was the storyline coming out of that game, and then you got the first elimination final between the Giants and the Hawks. And I think the big talking point that a lot of people are bringing up that's basically post this game is, are the Giants ready to rebuild? That's what I've been hearing. Are you kidding? I mean, they've got Aaron Cadman as the key forward up there. Jake Riccardi's pretty good as well. They've got very good small forwards now. Unfortunately, Darcy Jones did his ACL, so he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Their midfield is stacked with young talent. Yes, Josh Kelly's going to retire soon, but they've got Tom Green leading in there, and I'm sure they can recruit a couple of others. They just always seem to be drafting well, and Finn Callahan obviously as well. And then in defence, they've got one of the best defences in the competition. Yes, their last 3 final series haven't. I mean, first final series for Adam Kings was very good. They got to the prelim, nearly got to a granny, and then the last 2 they've been pretty disappointing. But we're really going to sit here and act like this team's going to be ready to rebuild. I don't think so at all. I think this team can still compete, and yes, they've got some holes in their list, and it's really unfortunate the fact that they are going to lose quite a few players this off season. But by no means do they need a rebuild. Are you serious?
No, I think, if you look at the team, they're in their 30, 31, 32s. That's your prime. That's nearing the end of your prime. And you got to think also, you look at Collingwood and Geelong at the moment. Where are all their players in their late 30s to early 30s? And a few older ones as well.
or in the late 30s.
Well,
but yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
but you got the. I think it showed in those two qualifying finals, but especially in the Collingwood game, how much finals experience is golden. I think.
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting to see how the prelim finals go. But the thing is that I like about the Giants, the fact that they're pretty balanced. Like, they do have a couple of older players, but their middle part is very solid. They've signed them on pretty good contracts. You know, thinking kind of Iden, Finn Callahan, that sort of stuff. They've got very good middle-aged players to younger players. And then they take a little bit of time to develop their younger kids in the VFL. But then when they do come in, they usually play a decent role. Like, you don't really see many kids that come in for the Giants and they just really have no impact.
Yeah.
So I think they're fine. But they do have to fix up their finals record because they haven't done well the last 2 years. And obviously, yes, they made that prelim in 2022, but they didn't even make the top four. So they haven't been able to make the top four, and they probably could have this year, depending on how some results went as well.
Yeah.
Some teams did drop some games that could potentially let them in. But I don't know. That was the storyline that came out of that one. Hawthorn, can they win it this week?
I can't see either of the bottom sides winning. Like, I think they can, but it's such a. There's so much pressure on the Crows in this state to not go out in straight sets.
Yeah. Well, who do you think? Because it's been pretty, history shows that a team has gone out in straight sets basically since the finals buyers come in. I think it's only 1 or 2 seasons that it hasn't happened. Who do you think is more likely?
I think it's Brisbane. Only because Gold Coast they've travel an hour away. They've only got to travel 90 minutes basically to get to the game.
I think something that a lot of people have forgotten about before that Gold Coast Fremantle game is the Damien Hardwick factor. I think everyone just
but I think them winning, it's like, oh wait, that's the fact.
This guy won 3 premierships.
Yeah, wait a minute, yeah. And I just love it. Maybe a bit of arrogance, but after the game he goes, well, I did tick off one thing of the game, like as personally. I won my first elimination final. It was like, yeah, well, all right.
Yeah, I mean, true. I mean, we obviously go back to, 2015, 2016 against Port Adelaide when they went the wrong way. And
yeah, well, he went to Cochin when he gets the wind at Adelaide Oval, which was probably not the best decision ever.
7 goals kicked on him in the first quarter of the game.
Maybe one of our highs in early times of Ken Inkley in finals.
Yeah, and speaking of Fremantle Gold Coast, of course, like I said, the storyline to come out of that game was not only the Damien Hardwick factor, but of course David Swallow kicking the winning point/goal/point/whatever. But very, very. I mean, it was very tough stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Nat Fyfe before that point took a clutch mark in just at half forward as well. Huge moments for both players. It's really unfortunate that one had to go out in such bad circumstances. Have you seen the people saying that David Swallow should have been pinged holding the ball? Come on.
It was clearly holding the man. It's clearly, but I just thought that I think someone also said that that was the script. When does a football match, when does a final ever go to script that David Swallow gets to have the shot to put him in front?
To be honest, I didn't think he had the distance.
I didn't think he did either. I thought, he's going to hook it. He's obviously going to hook it. He's going to go wide to get more distance, and he's going to hook it straight away. Yeah. And what I absolutely loved about the whole thing was the fact is that he got to celebrate it like he kicked the goal. Yeah. They didn't. Yes, it was touched and
if anything, I think it was best case scenario because he got to celebrate like it was a goal, but it wasn't paid a goal, which basically gave him the win.
Yeah, it was 9 seconds to go from one end to the other, which I was saying to when it happened is like that's the best result for Gold Coast because there's no way Freo can move the ball from the square to the other forward line. It was not going to happen.
Yeah, because if it was in the stoppage, who knows what would have happened.
And
I mean, Caleb's was dominating.
Yeah, it's their one wood.
Yeah, so I mean, they could have won that from the midfield, kicked it long. Josh Tracy's taken some clutch marks in his time, so who knows what would have happened. So if anything, that's perfect case scenario for the Gold Coast. You know, and you think they have a chance this week? Well, you think they're a better chance?
I think they are because they are battered and bruised. The Lions, they don't have to travel, basically. They travel an hour and a half away.
Yeah. So in their comfy beds and they head down to the Gabba.
Yeah.
Saturday night. I mean, it's not that big a deal. I mean, yeah, it's not that bad.
Mm.
I mean, they only beat the Lions, what, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, so yeah, but I think it was 11 goals. So they've got the momentum.
Yeah. Well, that's basically all the stuff to come out of the first week of finals. One thing I did want to bring up before we get to some trade stuff is Bobby Hill. So it does seem that he could potentially be okay to play in the prelim final if he does well at training. A lot of people have brought up the fact that selection integrity, if he does get picked, is kind of out the window. That he doesn't really deserve the spot. He's been out for a lot of this year through stuff that's not football related. So should he be allowed to be picked over a player who's been sitting in the VFL if they want to pick someone or someone who's in the team currently? I tend to agree a little bit, but I mean, it's a guy's won the all-stick medal.
It's a guy that can win you a final. He can win you a final off 5 minutes of play.
Well, literally.
Yes, and we've seen it. And your match winners, you don't have. You don't pick them out. They can just have a moment and just be like, they're going to win the game here. Collingwood can win this game if Bobby Hill kicks 2 goals and 15 disposals. He can win you the game.
We saw that when he through that down period. I've got to remember Collingwood only 3 weeks ago. Everyone was saying they're going to go out straight. A lot of people were saying they're going to go out straight sets.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to be the case, and I was right, obviously. But Bobby Hill was one of the big reasons why their form was so bad. They had no X factor up forward because Jamie Elliott was struggling on form, and other forwards weren't kicking goals. So, I mean, the third best ruckman in the competition, Mason Cox, was a pretty good inclusion.
yeah. Sam McClure was so right. Well, no, not Sam McClure. Sam McClure. Yeah, he's so right. No.
I love how he's like doubling down as well, I think, this week. And it's like, do you realise that he played in the forward line?
And do you realise he didn't do anything else? Like, I'm sorry.
Third best ruckman.
I still believe he's the. I fucking hate him. I fucking hate him.
He's a rage baiter.
Like I said, I think he can pull out that prelim. But he put, in 2018.
Yeah.
Haven't seen a good game from him since. I think McStay could have done the same thing, but I still think he can kick it. Yeah.
Would you be picking Bobby Hill? Back to the topic actually, man. Do you think Bobby Hill, if he's fit and he's ready and they think he's ready to go, would you pick him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, you pick him.
Yeah.
He is a player. Could you play him as a sub, or would you sub him out? Possibly, if you can, if you have the option.
Yeah.
But I think you have to play him. I think he's just that. He's that good when he's on.
It's different circumstances throughout the year, so I'm not bringing it up because of that fact. But Sirioli, one of the grand finals, I think it was 2014 or 2015, when he was injured throughout the year. So this is obviously different circumstances, but he went to the VFL, played in the grand final, and then made the grand final and had a pretty big impact in that game as well. So, I mean, I think that you do. You take it, you sit there, you pick your best team. I mean,
especially
as long as he's fit, you pick him.
If this was the qualifying final and you just want to be wary with him, you may not play him. It's a prelim. It's your chance to get in the grand final. It gives him some match fitness as well. You got to play him.
Yeah.
And if you lose, you lose. But you got to take the pun in a prelim. You got to take the pun in finals.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you pick him at this point. Don't risk a potential, 2 or 3 goals from him. You can bank on him kicking a couple at the very least. But let's move to these trade rumours. Well, not trade rumours as such, just a couple of trade news stories that came out throughout the last few weeks, or last couple of days or so. First of all, a couple of requests have been made. Sam Draper has requested a move from Essendon. Hasn't chosen a club yet. A lot of news was coming out saying he's going to pick Brisbane, but he hasn't officially said that he wants to go to the Lions. Essendon haven't said it. I think he will go to Brisbane, but it's interesting that he hasn't made that call.
Do you think it's because both of them are still in finals, or do you think that shouldn't matter?
I mean, Outtro picked the Brisbane Lions pretty quick.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Maybe he's put more integrity. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that he'll probably. I think he'll go to Brisbane still. I just thought it was quite interesting, really. Like, why did he not pick an Essendon?
Well, yeah.
Maybe there must be something behind the scenes, Crows or something, saying, "Look, man, We don't really like Riley O'Brien anymore.
Well, to be honest, I don't think any of them do. Like, I've heard reports that some people don't like. Well, it's not like they don't like him, but they don't. They just want. Yeah, I don't know. They've wanted a different ruckman for years.
Come on, we're on a podcast here with maybe a couple of hundred listeners. Throw something out.
Oh
throw
yeah,
a random rumor.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that Riley O'Brien's secretly a real stuck-up guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he acts all smart all the time. Yeah, like me right now. That's obviously not true. Anyway, Campbell Chester, surprisingly, someone's actually wanted to go to Carlton.
Yeah, I think
he decided to request a trade there.
Yeah, I think all Carlton supporters are cheering that someone actually wants to go there.
Yeah, one person. Actually two. We'll get to that in a minute. Port Adelaide had Jacob Ware announce that he wants to move to the Power from GWS. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a good player. Is it a player that Port need? Maybe, but it's just to me, it's depth. I think he can be in that best 22, but I think for the moment it's depth that Port Adelaide desperately need.
Now, because he has been delisted from the Giants in the past, he's an unrestricted free agent, so basically as soon as they decide the currency that he's on, he'll be going straight there.
That's what the good thing about Port for this is for Port is that the fact is that they don't have to give anything away. Is that Port... And we don't have so that's the good thing.
Charlie Spargo has decided that he wants to join North Melbourne. This seems so weird. Like, I understand they just want to get a depth player in, but how many of these players do the Kangaroos bloody fart us around with? Like, you need a key defender. I understand that, Spargo can add some little bit of spark up forward, but...
Isn't that the whole point of them getting Jacob Cascanti last year from Sydney? It seems like it's the same player who played in the VFL at Melbourne in a shithouse forward line who couldn't get a game in that forward line in the AFL side. Like, what would he bring to this team that Cassanti, and the other small forwards that they have in that team?
I was going to say, they've got Cooper Harvey up there, who's been playing some decent games. You've got Paul Curtis, of course. You've got others that have been around the mark. They obviously delisted a couple as well recently.
Yeah, I still don't believe... I don't know why Eddie Ford was delisted, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think that was a very much... when he came in the AFL side, he played a good game. I know he wasn't the most polished player or maybe pressure forward that they need, but... I still don't believe Spargo's your answer. I don't think Spargo's your answer to get them to a final series.
Get them, above 17.
Or above the bottom four.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, if they get him for nothing, what can you say?
I wouldn't be asking for, he's a free agent, isn't he? Sorry, you said?
He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, so he can go for nothing.
He can go for nothing. So, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just something that just seems like leave. I guess you could pick on the listed free agent almost. I don't know if that makes a difference. But anyway, and a couple of Fremantle players have requested moves. Will Brody to Port Adelaide and Liam Reedy to Carlton. So Will Brody to Port Adelaide. You've been pretty happy about this.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. That's with Ollie Wines coming to the near end. He's got maybe, if he's lucky, 3 years Wines. I think with his heart problems, it might not make a difference, but. I just think that if he gets one more incident with that, it might force him to retire. And it's nice to have that contested player in, and a young player as well that's like that sort of for Port Adelaide. So I like him in there.
I like it as well, because obviously Travis Boak's retired as well. But if you did notice in the last game watching the Port Adelaide against the Gold Coast, Travis Boak was taking a lot of centre bounces too. So Will Brody's a pretty good inclusion there. It does leave, I think Connor Rose will go back in there next year, I would feel like.
I'd say so. I think I think with the few injuries Port Adelaide have during the year, it'll be interesting.
Like Burgoyne being out for a lot of this year, Bergman being out for a lot of the second half of the year. There's a couple of players that will be pushed back into that back line. I think Jace Burgoyne's better off half back.
And I think Bergman is as well. I think that it's nice to have that tagging role, but Bergman I believe is more of a defender, and I think you need to keep him that way,
especially with how poor Port Adelaide are in defence.
Yeah,
they still need to get a defender.
I know.
I don't know where they're going to get it from, but they need to find a defender. Like Harrison Ram had a pretty decent.
Yeah, I know. I still I'm sure you're going to get to it, but there's other players in Victoria that are from South Australia. Throw your money at the defenders. Just ask, we'll give you, say, $50K a year. Want to come back home and
who do you want?
I want Wilkie. I still want Wilkie, and I've wanted him for about 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the Dogs have offered him a huge amount of money. We talked about that on the main channel with the trade video.
Yeah.
But, I think the Port Adelaide need to offer him a lot of money.
Even if you have to go a bit overs, I was thinking that. It's like, is it too much of a defender? But it's like Port Adelaide need a bloody big defender who can take the bloody big forward.
Still always thinking back to that guy who's in St Kilda. Why did they get rid of Dougal Howard?
I know there was other personal shit that happened there. So.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
No, you're just no.
No.
You tell me maybe later. I mean, we don't even have any relation to the Dougal Howard family, so we don't actually know anything really true.
And also for the other one was Liam Reddy, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Liam Reddy, I just mentioned.
I think that's
a good trade.
I think he's a good player. I think he's a decent ruckman who just would never get a game at Freo. So he has to look elsewhere. And I think
we've seen a couple of. We obviously saw Roy Meek do that for Freo a couple of years ago and how much he's thrived.
And even like Mark Pitnet, I'd still want to see him get a go. I think when he's in that team for Carlton, he's still decent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there should be any issue. Like, fucking let him have a go. But looks like they want to try and give Liam Reddy a chance too. But let's get to a couple of rumours that are just absolutely fucking crazy, eh? You seen this Lockie Neal one?
Oh, no way, yeah, I did see that.
So there's been a bunch of rumours circulating around on SEN apparently that Lockie Neal could be Eagles bound. Are you kidding me? Like, they're saying that he wants to go back to WA. This was a couple of years ago, I think you remember.
Yeah.
There was some rumours circulating regarding him wanting to go back to WA to raise his kids and stuff, and he didn't want to be in Brisbane, but that quickly was squashed. I think he re-signed.
I think it was like 3 or 4 days later, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he re-signed, yeah.
He re-signed. Now apparently, apparently Fremantle aren't really in the market for him, and West Coast would be a potential chance. Now look, I mean, he's got his premiership at Brisbane. Maybe get a bit of money out of the Eagles, but that's your.
The only reason that there may be truth to it is the fact is that Harley Reid signed for West Coast, and they've promised him that they'll give him some cattle and some teammates that will actually play for it, that will play for the Eagles.
I mean, they just re-signed Tim Kelly. I mean, why would they do that? I mean, that was just the worst trade of all time, isn't it? I mean, Geelong got very lucky with that. I mean, he's had a couple of good seasons, but he never reached the heights that he did.
I don't know why they re-signed him again. I still don't know why they re-signed him.
He came out and said, I'm trying to find my love for the game.
And then, what was it, 2 months later, they've re-signed him, and then later in the year, he's dropped to the waffle. And yeah, they say he said he had wanted to go back and get his form back.
I don't think any AFL players gone to a coach and said, I want to play VFL football.
Yeah, I want to play waffle.
I want to play waffle. Oh, yeah, sorry. I want to play waffle football. I'm sorry, bro. There's no fucking way. But now to the rumour that's just so true. Zach Merritt to Hawthorn. So, I don't know. Look, I feel like at first I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. But then all of a sudden they're like, he's met with Sam Mitchell. And we know that's not a good move. You know, you're at least getting to the mains with Sam Mitchell. You've had your entree, you get your little moose booze, you know, you're not a dessert, but he's definitely going to get you to main and having a good talk with you.
And the thing is that we saw this earlier in the year with Oscar Allen. Like like
I said, he's not going to get you to dessert. He's not going to full on pay the check, but he's going to get you to the main course.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this is no way. There's no way that the captain of Essendon is going to leave. But
would it be? Is it surprising that it's not a bigger story? Like, it should be like your captain who hasn't seen that your club who haven't seen a finals win in 20 plus years is leaving. Your captain.
I don't know if he's leaving.
Well, sorry, he's on the verge of looking at other clubs and talking to other teams, and on the verge of maybe going.
I think if it does happen, I think it would be fucking huge. It would be terrible for fucking Essendon. Like, they're losing their best ruckman. They don't really have any other ruckman on the horizon.
That means Goldstein keeps going.
Goldstein keeps going, probably. They're going to have to fucking wheel him out in a wheelchair at Marvel Stadium in round 1, which is going to be horrendous. But it just completely just derails Essendon, I think. I mean, we've been talking a lot about this year about like, they've had so many injuries, but there's depth there. There's young kids around.
Yeah.
There's guys there that we could actually use. But if Zach Merritt goes, that's just straight down the shitter.
Yeah,
Who
like
cares?
when he had that role change halfway during the year, and I don't know where he was playing, but he wasn't playing the midfield role that he absolutely dominates at.
Yeah.
It's amazing what would it look like with him not even in the team in that side.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Martin, I couldn't imagine is going to be there round one with his ACL he did mid-year. We saw Will Setterfield out of that team. So, I mean, they do have some players that would come back in that midfield and be a little bit okay. But what happens if Zach Merritt does leave is they just lose majority of the midfield that they could build with some kids. And they're not really been linked to a lot of kids on the a lot of talent on the horizon. They were linked to Harley Reid at times, but that obviously doesn't matter now. They weren't linked to any other big players either. Maybe Zach Bailey was the one they were talking about, but he's a different player.
Yeah.
Zach Bailey, I don't know about that one. That seems a bit weird, like the amount of money they're offering, like as a forward. I think that's fine as a forward, but he thrives so well because the Brisbane midfield get it to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, those are a couple of massive trade rumours that are a bit, how you doing? Jesse Motlop to Port Adelaide, how do you feel about that?
Bag of chips I'd be happy to give away for that one. Like, I just think, like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, it's the romance of the Motlop coming to Port Adelaide. I think you can't give up any more than a third rounder at least. For maybe a fourth. Like, I'm being serious. Like, we will give up. Like, I don't know why the hell Port would want him. He's not. I'd rather put my faith in bloody Joe Barry in a second year than bloody Motlop.
Jesus Christ. So you don't see, I think there's a statistic that was floating around earlier in the year about how he has the same amount of goals as Eddie Betts at the same time of his career. You don't think this, I mean...
I've never... The only time this year he looked any good was either the last game or the second last game, and they played him a bit of midfield. But even that, he played one quarter of that he was any good at. I've never seen him play a good game and actually like get the scruff of the neck and take it with him. Like a lot of small forwards can do. A Papley, a Cozzy Pickett, a Shy Bolton. I can't see it.
Jesse Motlop's next in line. So
I can't see him kicking 40. I can't see him kicking anywhere near 30 goals a season, let alone a 40 plus
season. I think that's probably a good. I mean, around the frustration that you have, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. Like, if you're going to be recruiting a guy like him, you think you're going to have to pay a pretty decent amount because the potential would somewhat be there for people, and that's why Carlton want to keep him and why he's a high draft pick and stuff. So. Is he going to bring you 40 goals in a season? He has not shown that for me. I can't see it happening. If you're going to want to bring him to the club, you're going to want him to do that. He's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah. And
he's not... Is he going to be maybe a Brian Myers type? You think he's going to set up for you all the time? He's not. I don't think he's that good a user. So that's not his role. Maybe as like a second string small forward, But is that what you really want to pay? You're going to have to pay... Probably a second round pick at the lowest for him. That's what Carlton will want.
Well, yeah, but you look at last year. Carlton lost Matt Owies and put all the faith in the world in Jesse Motlop. And he flopped. Yeah. He did bugger all this year for Carlton. And when they needed a pressure forward and they needed someone to kick goals as a small forward, it didn't happen until the last month of the season and Francis Evans did it.
So do you think Port Adelaide should be recruiting Francis Evans back? It was
Motlop had all season to do what Francis Evans did in a month of football.
Yeah.
That's your answer. Port Adelaide don't need another forward. They need some defence. They need some tall defenders.
Yeah, I agree. So I think obviously a lot of Port fans would be sitting there. I don't think that Jesse Motlop's the answer. All right, let's move on from that. Let's talk about some pretty big changes that could potentially be coming at the end of the year for the AFL, because it looks like with the new appointment of what's his name, Graham Swan.
Greg Swan.
Graham Swan. I just named the guy, the spinner for England, didn't I? Yeah, Greg Swan. Seems like there's a lot of new initiatives and new ideas for the AFL. First of all, this came in the final series, which is just ridiculous. This just came in now. I mean, we've had this technology for years, and all of a sudden, we've finally seen an upgrade to the cameras in the arc for the finals. That's how we saw the touch on the mark from the David Swallow kick. We saw some of the footage that was actually very good, and we could actually see it was touch. And my question would be, why do we have to wait until the 2025 final series to see this? Why the hell did we not get to see this from the beginning? Because this technology is not exactly new.
Yeah, and it's funny that I think they've said it's that this camera is just on the ball. It's nowhere, like it's not following the plays. It's not following anything. It's only following the ball.
Oh,
That's why, and the better. Yeah, you can tell the quality of the actual camera is better as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we obviously needed it for the final series. Like, how many games could have been fixed
like
camera?
Whenever it came in, that's what it should have been. It shouldn't have been like an 80s camera.
I mean, my bloody webcam that I use for the podcast would probably be the one they use now. Like, I'm sure they could have, sprung a couple of $1,000. Surely Gillen at the time could have just thrown a couple of thousand.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, another thing that has been floated is the wild card round. Now, many people, I think 7AFL put up a post regarding, asking people their response for a wild card round. And I think the final result was about 85% no.
So that doesn't matter to them. They think about the 15% and what will give them more money.
Yeah. I only would like a wild card round, thinking about it now, if it was 8th and 9th. That is it. I wouldn't go to 7 and 10, because look at this year. And how many times has 10th been close? Usually it's only 9th. Occasionally there's been a 10th place team that could make it, but the percentage is so low, it doesn't make a difference. Only way I would do it is 8v9. That's it. Is
there any point though to just do one game?
Well, I mean, let's look at the game that was on, Wednesday, a couple of weeks ago. That game would have been interesting if it was a wild card game. If it was that would have been interesting to watch. While Gold Coast v Essendon, when Essendon got no one there and no one gives a fuck, and then they got thumped by 90 points.
It was done within the first 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, so I do think that. I know that some people will say, what's the point? But I mean, that would bring something. That would bring some sort of theatre. That would bring actually something to the buy round if they want to keep it. We'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, that's the only way I would do it.
Yep.
I think it just ruins the integrity of the top 8. I think we talked about it a couple of months ago on the podcast, and I could actually see a reason for it. But I think now as the season's got to the end, I'm kind of like, I don't think it's a good idea.
No.
So that's what most AFL fans think. But I think for the aspect of business and entertainment, I understand why the AFL want it. Because I mean, obviously the second half of the season dragged on and on and on. But I do think this season has been an outlier. Like, how many times we have never seen this big a split between 10 to 18 and 9 to 1.
Yeah.
With the Caroline Wilson reporting this, so take this one with a huge grain of salt. Take it with a salt rock. She has said there was talks late yesterday at the AFL, and there was one serious snag that was hit by the AFL after trying to work through a potential wildcard round proposal to the commission. So,
do you know what that was?
No, you?
Yeah. So the snag was the fact is that if 7 through 10, if nothing was going to change, so if 7 couldn't get into the 6, and from 11 wouldn't get up to a 10, everyone would drop everybody. Like, you remember when Ross Lyon dropped 10 players in a game? Yeah. That was the snag. It's like, well, if it comes up to the last round and say Gold Coast who was this year, and Gold Coast couldn't get any higher than 7th, and they're 7th, they could just drop everybody in the last game of the season against top 4 player team or a bottom 6 team and just write it off. That was the snag.
Yeah.
So could they put in a loophole or something that says you can only drop 4 players in a game? And then the thing that I think Mitch Cleary, who was on in that panel, he was like, well, doesn't that they can just find loopholes and say he's injured, he's got mental problems, and so. I
mean, how many times have we seen the loophole that Geelong used with their fucking injury list?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a snag, but they probably won't care about it anyway.
That's not going to stop
It's not going to stop it. It's not going to stop it. They'll bring it in if they want to bring it in.
Yeah, exactly. But I do understand that snag. But also, like you said, like people will just... teams rest players anyway, and they use the random, oh no, my foot hurts, my toenail grows too long.
Write a mental, the medical report, and just write it that it was a sore toe.
Yeah,
I stubbed my toe when I kicked the door this morning when I was in the bathroom, something like that.
I mean, look what happened to Jesse Hogan with the bloody door when he hurt himself earlier in the year. Now, obviously, that was an actual injury, but I'm saying, players can just literally write something off. So. That'd be an interesting one. I personally don't think a wild card round would be a good idea, but I think for the entertainment aspect of the second half of the year, they will use that as a catalyst to bring it in.
Yeah.
Oh, the season was so boring at the end of the year. This is why we're bringing it in. It's like, but there's so many other factors. I mean, there's 24 rounds. If you can't make it by then, you probably don't deserve it. Another one as well, which the AFL could introduce next year. This is an interesting one. Last disposal rule. Bring it into the AFL. Now, I know you're a very big traditionalist, because every time I bring up these sort of things, you're like, oh, this is sucks, oh, this is shit. What's your thought on the last disposal rule?
Well, it's the SANFL have brought it in, have had it in since I think 2016, but the AFL and SANFL have done differently. The SANFL is all over the ground. In the AFL's proposal, they've only made it between the arcs.
Yeah.
So evidence has shown that in SANFL, that the scoring's gone up and stoppages have gone down, which is what they think that all fans want, which is true. I think it's a good idea. I know, shocker.
I know, fuck.
But I just think that there's going to be a way that a coach will find a loophole. There's always a loophole with a new rule, and the coaches find it out, the players figure it out, and they need to get rid of other rules. Like, I think if you're going to do it, you do it like the SANFL, when you do it all over the ground. The last disposal, and it's the other team, goes to the other team. It's not, like in between the arcs, it's like, oh, well, he's 51 out. It's like, oh, well, that's outside the 50. Yeah. It's like... Yeah, they have to do it because the most frustrating rule is the insufficient intent. Nobody gets it. You only realise it is when the umpire comes, he's running in like he's just bulldozed going fucking full bore at it.
Yeah, you know what he's gonna call it. Everyone's like, I don't mind it. I wouldn't mind the idea of it between the arcs. To be honest, I'm fine with that. I don't think we want to see teams be getting Costa like if it costs them a goal from centre wing and they work it down the field and get a goal. I don't really like the idea of someone accidentally if you run it out deliberately. I think that's the whole point of in between the arcs. And I think obviously people would bring up maybe the Carl Amon one when he accidentally handballed it out of bounds, and obviously against Brisbane a couple weeks ago. So. Yeah. I don't think that should have been deliberate, but what I'm saying is I don't think he should be pinged for that.
But I think also, if you look at it, there's some games, I think it was Gold Coast and someone, Freo, and the Freo Dockers just something kicked it long, and it was 30 seconds to go in the game, and it goes out. I don't think it was Freo actually, but it was someone, and he kicks it long, goes into the forward 50. There's no one around, and it floats out. It was such insufficient intent, doesn't pay it, but that's last touch. That should be always reversed. But if it's only between the arcs and they rely on that, that's why I think it should be either all over the ground or you don't bring it in.
Yeah,
it's you just you're trying to win the game or lose the. You're trying to get it forward to kick a goal, set up.
I think it brings more entertainment. In that sort of scenario you bring up, if you just bomb it long. In the 30 seconds to go, just to get it territory. You're not really going for goal. You're just trying to get territory down your end, and you want to get it out first.
Yeah, or you're losing by 5 or 3 points, and you need to get down the other end. You just bomb it long and just want to set up and you're trying to kick it into the pocket, so you set up for as forward stoppage. No, you got to actually try and hit a target here and actually hit a target. And if it is, I think they're saying it's last disposal, not last touch. So if you punch it out, it's fine. If you spoil it, it's fine. But you don't want to. How many times when he even some of the ruckman punch it out again if they know the setup's wrong, they just punch it out and it's insufficient. It's insufficient. That's insufficient, but they don't pay it. But it's
I think that should be brought in as the rule.
That's what
I think that should, because I think Like, last disposal, I do agree with. Like, I think defenders should have the right to spoil it out of bounds.
Yeah.
I still think that's more than fair. But I do think that when it comes to a ruckman and a stoppage, if they just punch it out, that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, I didn't like the setup here. We're just going to punch
ruckman
out,
just do
reset.
that.
It's like, yeah, it's not like, give it a, that's just bullshit. And
It's like, I mean, you're an AFL team, this is your job. If you can't make up the fucking, if you can't make a scenario you like, you don't just get to do a read.
And the same with the forward line. Like I said, it's like you should be able to hit the target the forward, or just give it to the lead. You don't just bomb it long to the pocket and reset with 15 seconds left to win the game. You don't get that luxury of it. You kick it out. Well, that's your fault. You just lost your team the game. To be honest.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, if you're gonna, I think it brings more strategy to it as well. Like, you can't just bomb it into the pocket and then just, that's okay, because he could have been going for goal. I agree. All right, guys, let's get into the preview to the semi-finals. Like you said a bit earlier in the episode, you're thinking about if anyone does go out straight to it's going to be the Lions.
Yep.
I'm probably thinking Crows, to be honest. I've said that in the preview in a moment, but I do think it is the Crows. I know you're probably like, I hope so, but as a Port fan, but anyway, let's get into the preview of the semi-finals.
And of course, we start off with the Friday night contest between the Crows and the Hawks. Now, Adelaide, of course, failed their first finals test last game. Couldn't deal with the pressure from Collingwood, and pretty much after half-time, it was pretty much one-way traffic from the Pies. Crows had some opportunities in the final term, but really couldn't take their chances. Weren't able to kick a goal in that final term, and overall failed their first finals test. While Hawthorn, on the other hand, heading back to SA for another semi-final, of course, remembering last year in 2024, having to go up against Port Adelaide. I think they're a little bit more underdogs this time round, but of course could be able to cause an upset. Now, they're obviously coming off that great win against the Giants last week. However, I think they would be a little bit concerned about the fact that they did concede 7 goals in a row against the Giants, having that game pretty much won midway through the third term, then letting their opponents back into the game. They were able to hold on in the end, were able to get a bit of a strong arm back on that contest, but still, giving up 7 goals in any game in a row isn't great, so they did get away with that in the end. Now, another thing that the Hawks would be a little bit concerned about is the fact that they did lose the inside 50 count against the Giants last week by 16. Now, they did deal with that relatively well, the Hawthorn defence. However, I don't think the Crows will give them that same luxury. If the Crows win the inside 50 count by 16, they win this game by 40-plus points. Now, on a couple of matchups that I'll be interested to watch, I think Adelaide will be sending Sam Berry to Giant Newcombe. We saw the Crows last week pretty much let Dacos and Jordan De Goey run free throughout the midfield. They did go to them at the start of a stoppage, but as soon as the ball was in play, they pretty much just left their opponents, and Dacos and De Goey ran riot. So I couldn't imagine that they would let Giant Newcombe off the chain this week, as he has been so good in September football. We've seen a couple of statistics float around throughout the week how good Giant Newcombe has been in the first couple of years of Hawthorn actually making finals. So I would expect that the Crows negator in Sam Berry will head right to Giant Newcombe at the first bounce of the game. And on the other side of the coin, I actually think that Connor Nash will go after Jordan Dawson. He was one of the Crows' best performers when they played against each other back in round 21, so basically just over a month ago. And Nash has done negating roles in the past, considering that, of course, Finn McGuinness won't be in the team through injury. I think that Connor Nash is the guy to go with him around the ground. And if he goes forward, probably one of the tall defenders, likely Josh Battle. Blake Hardwick could potentially do the job, but I think he'd be a little bit too small for Jordan Dawson. And I think Blake Hardwick's probably got some other matters to attend to with that Crows forward line having a lot of avenues to goal. So definitely would expect that Connor Nash is going to be running with Jordan Dawson throughout the contest. But now, as we did last week with the finals, we're doing our finals focus, looking at players that I think could influence this game. And first of all, my picks are Riley Thilthorpe for the Crows and Josh Battle for the Hawks. Now, Riley Thilthorpe, first of all, despite him having a pretty good player rating last week, according to Champion Data, I really believe it was one of his worst performances of the 2025 campaign. But I also think delivery to him when it went forward was pretty lackluster, to say the least. So I think if the Crows can use the ball a bit better going forward and can deal with the pressure that the Hawks bring in this game, I think that Thilthorpe could have a bit of a day out. And I don't really think that Riley's going to have 2 down weeks in a row, so I'm expecting a big response from the big guy up forward. And I think the Adelaide Crows need him to be up and about if they're going to be able to win this game. Now, on Josh Battle, I think this guy has a massive job to do this week. Now, Barras was very good last match against the Giants, and he'll obviously have to have another blinder if Hawthorn are going to be able to cause an upset. But I think Battle is going to have to be at his absolute best if they're going to win this game as well. Now, I think Barras will likely go to Thilthorpe, as Barras usually tends to take the big bullocking forward who goes to the top of the goal scorer square. So I think Battle will probably get Fogarty or Walker. However, he can't take them lightly either. Even though last week they did get pretty well beaten against Collingwood, Taylor Walker was pretty influential. If he kicked a couple of goals in that last quarter, really could have set up for a really close finish. So Battle is going to have a very good game as well. And considering, even though Sicily is the captain of the football club, Josh Battle is the recent All-Australian selection, of course, making it in his first year in brown and gold. So I think, considering the fact that he joined the club from St Kilda to play in these big games, play in big finals, he truly has to stand up this week. Now, my brother has also given us his finals focus as well. He has gone with Josh Worrell for the Crows and Jarman Impey for Hawthorn. He has said that he was absolutely robbed of an Australian. Josh Worrell improved that last week. He was one of the best players for the Crows in a very poor performance. And considering the fact that the Hawthorn usually like to go with a tall forward line, Cal Shadir is out, but most likely we'll see Mitch Lewis come back into the team. He'll have to show it once again if the Crows are going to be able to win this one. And on Jarman Impey, he's been in great form in the second half of the season. He's been very high in score involvement along with meters gained. And he's been one of the better small defenders in the competition as well. And really showing how damaging he can be on the counter. So he's going to have to be very good this week at the Adelaide Oval. So now let's get to the tip for the first semi-final. I am going with the Crows by 6 points. Now, I honestly think if any team is going to be knocked out in straight sets, it's actually going to be Adelaide. Because I didn't really like how they performed last week. Really didn't deal well with the pressure that Collingwood put on them. And being a team with little experience in finals, I have a lot of concern around the Crows after that first week's performance. But I also believe that the Crows will respond. I do think it's going to be a close game from start to finish, but with how poor Adelaide were last week, I can't see them putting up that sort of performance 2 weeks in a row. So I think they will get the job done, and I do see them being there on prelim final night. And my brother has also tipped Adelaide. He's picked them by 21. He has said that the Crows have been strong defensively throughout the year. And Hawthorn did concede a big score last week. And of course, did give away 7 goals at one point in a row, like I mentioned earlier. So if the Crows do get on a run at home, he can't see the Hawks being able to stop that or being able to catch back. Now, moving on to the second semi-final, and it is the first ever finals Q clash. Brisbane up against the Gold Coast. Now, the Lions last week coming off a terrible game. And they're also suffering on the injury front, as we did hear recent news that Lachie Neale will miss the rest of the season for Brisbane. And we've obviously heard recently that Eric Hipwood will be out for at least the semi-final. While the Gold Coast did cause probably the biggest upset of the first week of finals in my eyes, after beating the Dockers in WA. With that heart-stopping finish after David Swallow's goal / just touched at the mark, which pretty much costs Fremantle from any chance winning that game in the end. But what an absolute highlight that was for David Swallow. Keeps his career going for one extra game at least. Now, the Lions nearly lost every important statistic last week and got absolutely dominated in the middle of the ground against Geelong, while the Gold Coast let Sarong dictate clearance throughout the game. So I think they have to be better in that facet of the game if they're going to be able to cause an upset against Brisbane. Now, I think that Josh Dunkley will need to line up on Matt Rowell, at least at clearance, as he absolutely killed Brisbane last time these two teams met, as he had 15 clearances by himself, as well as having 10 score involvements and 37 touches. And I think Josh Dunkley lines up on him perfectly, so I think that will eventuate throughout the game. And on the other side of the coin, I think the matchup the Suns need to get right, need to keep an eye on, is the Cam Rayner matchup. Now, I'll get on Cam Rayner specifically in a moment, but I think that Will Powell is the man to go to him. He had a very underrated game last week against Fremantle, a couple of clutch moments in the final term, and I think he's the perfect guy to go with Cam Rayner around the ground and up forward. I think he's got the body strength to go with him around the ground and in one-on-ones, and I think his speed will be so influential throughout the contest, so I'm expecting Will Powell to go to him. But now let's get to our finals focus. And my players to take a look at in this matchup are Cam Rayner for the Lions and Bailey Humphrey for the Gold Coast. Rayner, first of all, he needs to play a big role up forward this week after a pretty disappointing qualifying final. He did kick 3 goals, but 2 of those came in pretty controversial circumstances, and he's been absolutely raked through the coals throughout this week, from the public and the media alone. And I honestly think he's a lot better than what he produced in the last match, not just from those couple of controversial decisions. He's much better than what he produced last game. Only had about 17 touches, and if he can have up to 25 and 3 goals, he'll definitely have the impact that the Lions need to get over the line in this one. We saw how good he was in last year's final series and had a very good grand final as well. Was one of the best players in their prelim against Geelong, and he needs to hit that sort of form if the Lions are now going to challenge for the flag. With Lachie Neale being out, he needs to stand up. Now on Bailey Humphrey, he was absolutely insane in the first half last week, and many people rightfully saw similarities to him and Dusty. However, he did go missing in the second half of that game, and if the Suns are to cause an upset, he's going to need to step up his game even further this week, and I honestly think he can do that, but a real consistent performance from Bailey Humphrey in this game will go a long way for the Gold Coast. Now, my brother's players in focus are Josh Dunkley for the Lions and Matt Rao for the Gold Coast. Now, Dunkley, first of all, he's been known for his tagging role, but this year he has shown how to get the pill as well. Now, with no Lockie Neal, he'll have to play like he's never done before, and really like he has done throughout the early parts of this year. And on Matt Rao, a contested beast, built for finals, had a very good game last week. It needs to be the one who gets the ball out to the runners of the Gold Coast. You're thinking of John Noble, Dan Rowley on the outside, even Braden Fiorini, who's been good since returning to the team in the mid-year. So Matt Rao, of course, is going to be very important in this matchup. But for now, let's get to the tips for this game. I will be going for Brisbane by 43 points. Now, I'm not saying the Gold Coast can't get this one done, and I actually think they do have a chance of causing an upset, but these games don't tend to be that close. Brisbane also don't tend to lose 2 games in a row. I've said that throughout the entire year, and they've usually lived up to that. So I think the Lions were extremely poor last week, and I'm expecting them to have a response. They do have a few players out, but I think Chris Fagan will get them back on the track, get Brisbane to really show up, and I see them playing against Collingwood on prelim final night. And my brother's also going with the Brisbane Lions. He's picking them by 39 points. He said the Gold Coast played their grand final last week. The Lions have responded multiple times throughout the year after a bad loss. Lockie Neal's injury does hurt their chances, but their depth should be able to cover him throughout this week at the very least. So let's quickly cover our tips in full before we move to the end of the preview. My tips for week 2 of the finals are the Crows by 6 points over Hawthorn and the Lions by 43 points over the Gold Coast Suns. And my brother's full tips for week 2 of the finals are the Crows by 21 points over Hawthorn and Brisbane by 39 points over the Gold Coast Suns.
Now we get to my brother's betting for the semi-finals. Have you got us one for the podcast this week?
Yeah, I do. It's with the Lockie Neal injury, I think you got to see what sort of depth the Brisbane Lions have. They don't have the Suns don't really have a tagger, so I'm looking at Will Ashcroft for 25 plus disposals on the weekend in the Q Clash. At the moment, it's about $1.36.
Yeah,
simple.
I think Will Ashcroft probably have a pretty big game. He did actually stand up quite well in those games later in the year when Lockie Neal was already out.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't mind that one. I think it'll be pretty good. But did you have 2 bets for us this week, or is it just the one for the same game multi? Is that right?
Oh, so yeah, this week I'm gonna. Since there's only 2 games, I might as well give you the exclusive that both same game multis and
so both same game multis you're gonna be giving.
I've given you the exclusive one for the podcast, but I'll give you the one more certainty bet for the other game, and I'll give you one outside the boundary bet. Alright guys, let's get into the second week of AFL finals for 2025. This week I'm going to give you the semi-finals same game multis for both games. So we'll start with the Friday night game, Adelaide v Hawthorn. First leg is Rory Laird for 20 plus disposals. Second leg is Jarman Impey, 20 plus disposals. Third leg is Josh Worrell, 15 plus disposals. Fourth leg is Alex Neil-Bullen for 15 plus disposals. And the final leg is Jack Ginnivan for 1 goal, valued at $3.75. For the Q Clash semi-final on Saturday night, I'm taking Dane Zorko for 25 plus disposals as the first leg. Second leg is Hugh McGluggage for 25 plus disposals. Third leg is Took Miller for 20 plus disposals. And the final leg is Kai Lohman for 1 goal, valued at $4.33. My certainty bet this week is in the Hawthorn Adelaide game. I'm taking Carl Amon for 20 plus disposals against the Crows, valued at $1.31. And the outside the boundary bet this week, I'm taking Josh Dunkley for 25 plus disposals against the Suns, valued at $3.45. And as always, guys, gamble responsibly.
And finally, we get to the semi-final edition of the Flog of the Week. And I think you probably did see this one at the start of the week. You may have actually sent it to me. It is the airlines who are just jacking up the prices for flights this week going to South Australia. Not so much. I don't think many people are going to Queensland. They can't jack them up. They're so fucking pissed off. But yeah, it's crazy how much they're raising the prices. I'll play this little clip in a moment, but it's not even like they're upping it by like double. They are like 10 times the normal price to get from Victoria to Adelaide.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that.
Now, look, I'm not going to feel too hard done by for a couple of Victorians who have to fly over here. Like, sorry, I don't really care about you, but it is still pretty shit.
Yeah.
We'll play the clip.
There will be a lot of Hawthorn supporters hoping to get over to Adelaide. I've just done a bit of quick maths.
They haven't put the prices right up, have they?
To get to Adelaide on Friday,
Don't tell me.
Presume you depart on Friday, come back Saturday. The cheapest is Qantas, $1,410.
That's disgrace.
Okay.
It shouldn't be allowed.
One way or two way?
But P.S. I got to Hawaii for less than $1,000. It's a bit nicer than Adelaide. Virgin Australia, the official airline of the AFL, $1,582.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Return. And the most expensive is the budget carrier, Jetstar, $1,623 return to Adelaide, going over Friday, coming back Saturday.
Yeah, so basically just go and talk about it for a little bit longer. But to raise the price to $1,500 to come here to Adelaide, when you can go to places like Los Angeles, like Hawaii for $1,000, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
you might
literally just drive.
Yeah, I think that if you're a Hawks supporter and you don't mind driving, you got to do it. I think that's the more reasonable way to do it.
Yeah, just watch it up.
Yeah, I think either you do it at home, either you watch it at home, or if you get tickets to the game, drive. Like that's ridiculous to have nearly $1,500 return.
I mean, obviously you're not just going to pay for flights. Like, you got to stay. If you're going to be coming in on the Friday, staying until and then leaving on Saturday, you got to stay somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you can stay, at least if you bring your car, you can stay in there for some accommodation.
Yeah, and it's like, and of course, hotel prices will go up for the night. You just know it. So you just, it's
look,
just.
I'm honest with you guys. I'm not opening my door for you.
If the Hawks win, maybe, but that's only if you win.
Yeah.
You know.
Look, I mean, I'll make you pay double. Fucking the hotels will make you pay double to stay here. But overall, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, nah.
It's a fucking scam, and they should be fucking.
Yeah.
I think it was Tony Short said it should be fucking talked by the ACCC. It shouldn't be allowed. Anyway, that's pretty much all we've got for this episode of the Band Riders Podcast, guys. Really do appreciate you guys listening and watching. If you did enjoy this episode of the Band Riders Podcast, make sure to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel and over on Spotify. We obviously haven't been doing the review for the finals. We probably do one for the grand final, so we'll put that over on Spotify in a couple of weeks. But if you are listening to this on Spotify, then make sure to leave us 5 stars and make sure to follow, so you're notified on the podcast every single week. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch us all next week.
See you later, guys.